Divine greetings, ones and zeros, zeros and ones, boys and girls that are now men and women, gods and goddesses, kings and queens, spiritual beings of this divine matrix. Welcome to my channel. I am Clay. In this message, I share with you the narrative, the story of creation that guided me and continues to guide me through schizophrenia, anxiety and depression, as well as multiple personality disorder. We are all human beings with a soul and a spirit and are co-creators with the Creator. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are gods and goddesses who created ourselves with the Creator. We chose to forget so we can have the experience in recovering our memory. Everything that happens to us is by divine planning, as we are divine beings. There is no end or no beginning. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. There was never a time when we did not exist. Existence is a matter of perspective. In forgetting who and what we are, we lie to ourselves. In my case, I lied to myself to the degree where I had a mental break as a symptom of forgetting, and this forgetting is diagnosed as schizophrenia. This is one of the stories of creation that allows me to hold myself and everyone else accountable for the energy in motion, also known as creative activity and receptive activity. Creative activity and receptive activity are archetypes and synonyms of masculine and feminine archetypes. Both masculine and feminine archetypes are found in all genders. As I share with you that narrative, that story of creation, I'm reminded of how it helped me to navigate through schizophrenia. And I'll give you a story of the denser part of when I was experiencing the schizophrenic episode. The era or the time when I was hearing voices, and I still do hear voices, except that now I understand how it is that I'm hearing those voices. So going to the story, as I was going through the denser part of the schizophrenic episode, I heard voices. I had hallucinations. I had problems with my thinking. When I came out of that denser part through the help of medication and with spiritual guidance, one of the main things I had to understand was that I was the one who I was hearing as the hallucinatory voices, or I was the one who was projecting the images that I was seeing that weren't there. I, along with the collective consciousness also, because we are one, as the African saying goes, I am because we are. So with that understanding in mind, the understanding of masculine and feminine really took hold, and how the receptive energy and the creative energy works hand in hand, how the lie and the truth works hand in hand, how the forgetting and the remembrance work hand in hand. So when I was hearing voices, those voices that I was hearing is a matter of shadows. Carl Jung would call it shadows. Some people call it demons. Some people call it the malevolent forces, so on and so forth. I like to refer to them as shadows. So the shadows of the lie would echo in my system. For example, I would hear the voice of my 4-year-old who was angry telling me that I should kill myself. And it sounds strange that a child or a 4-year-old inner voice would tell me to kill myself. However, when it's telling me to kill myself, it's the result of continuous ignoring of what life should be. Because I told myself I did not want to participate in my journey anymore. I did not want to participate in the mission that I came here to accomplish. The mission that I came here to accomplish is to have a truthful experience of life, to have a truthful experience in infinity, in infinite life. And when I told lies that caused blockages, the shadow, the lie, invertedly told me that I should end my life. Now, when I was in the deeper part of the psychosis, I did not have an understanding of what that was. And I wanted to end my life. Now that I have a deeper understanding of what that is, now that I have a better understanding of what that is, whenever I encounter resistance of the shadow within me, I know that there's something that I have lied to myself about. Previously, I gave the example of when I was 4 years old and my father left, and me creating a mask to protect my absentee father, to present him as being present in the home. And as a result, I didn't understand that he had abandoned the family and had abandoned me from 4 years old. I didn't have this understanding even when I was 35 years old, even when I was over 40. I'm 44 years old now. So even when I was over 40, I did not want to accept that my father had abandoned me. And each time I encountered that narrative, each time I felt that either from myself or from someone else who is ignorant of abandonment, I would face that 4-year-old and would remind myself that I am, and I know what it is that abandonment is and being present is. So these are the shadows that one encounters when you do not have a narrative in place, when you do not have the truth in place, the truthful narrative, a truthful narrative that holds you accountable for what it is that you are here to do. I'll go into another example, and that example is as I went to school. When I went to school in America, I learned of the narrative that Christopher Columbus discovered America. Now, when I was hearing that narrative I took history courses, and as I was hearing that narrative, there was something in me, my 1-year-old, as I did inner childhood work, my 1-year-old was saying that how can Christopher Columbus discover America when there were people here? However, I was not healed, and at that moment healed enough to understand or to hear my 1-year-old saying that is not true. Furthermore, from that point, I had a mask in place to say that accept what is being told to you, so you can be successful in life, so you can go on and be a college graduate, which I did. However, in ignoring that at that moment, ignoring that it is impossible for Christopher Columbus to discover America when there were other people here, in that moment, I had to lie to myself. Or not that I had to, I chose to lie to myself, ignoring that there were other people here, effectively making those other people less than Christopher Columbus. They're, in my mind, how I recorded it is that those people that they called the Native Indians or Native Americans were less than Christopher Columbus. They're not human, so to speak. Christopher Columbus is the definition of human. So therefore, everyone has to go up to his standards. So even as a a young adult, because at the time I was 20 something, I faced these challenges because at 1 year old I had told myself that lie, and the lie that I don't know what truth is. So here it is, because I want to graduate college. I'm hearing that Christopher Columbus discovered America, and when he came here, there were people here, and I didn't question it. I simply focused on the task ahead, which was to graduate college. Now, because I did that, it now brings to mind what else I did. I lied to myself, and in lying to myself, I had to wear a mask. In wearing that mask, I presented a version of me to society, the educated version, the traumatized version. Another word to say is the narcissistic version. I presented that version to society in order to be a member of society. And I'm sharing this in light of the creation story. The creation story that says we are here to remember who we are, and in remembering who we are to remain coherent and cohesive, to allow the love energy to flow through us and keep us sane, to keep our sanity. In my case, as I've suffered certain trauma, I have to rewire my mental capacity, rewire my mentality to stay away from lies. So in my mind, I have to continuously back down these things such as the Christopher Columbus story, such as the notion that we are living in a free society, when I see people being enslaved by their mentality. As I see this, I am charged within my own soul to maintain my sanity. Because, for example, on the calendar, I have a Samsung phone, and on the Samsung phone, on the calendar, Christopher Columbus Day is celebrated as a day on the calendar. So people acknowledge that this is something that was done, and it is something that is not to be corrected. Because if it was corrected, then you would not celebrate that kind of day. So each Columbus Day, I face this trauma. And every day I face this trauma because it reminds me of what I did when I was 1 year old, what I did when I was 4 years old, when I lied. So I share with you this narrative of the creation story that I use to hold myself accountable for my energy, that I use to hold myself accountable for the masculine and feminine principles that create my soul, that cause my soul to be a male in this society. That is the message I would share today. And with that, I say Ashe, Amen, and Namaste. Each one, reach one, teach one.